So my dad's from down south, always from down south, and he says Gutsell, but I say Gutsell.
Gutsell.
Yeah.
Gutsell.
And it means good soul.
Oh, there you go. I like it.
I looked that up a few years ago.
I could have told you that. Okay, there we are. Welcome back to another episode of Design on Purpose. I'm here with Jason Gutsell.
Gutsell. Yeah.
And I want to say the fasting coach, but we've said that's a obsolete or archived.
It's kind of what I branded myself a few years ago when I was coaching fasting, and I was just like, I am all about fasting. Like, don't get us wrong, but I was like, I'm the fasting coach, and then I kind of done away with the name because I wanted to be more myself and just be me, and felt like in some way maybe hiding behind a name or something online. And I was just like, no, this is me. And so I changed my name to Jason Gutsell, and done a reintroduction of myself on my social.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you're going to see anything from fasting to fitness to calisthenics to cooking to life to anything I want to post, really. So
yeah, I've seen your stuff. You're like a holistic. I liked it actually because you sent me your ebook today. Yesterday, and I had a look through. I think we're very aligned with like a lot of the, the methodology or the ethos around your training and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, I've come at it from a different. You're actually like a calisthenics athlete. I've come up from it from a completely different direction. I went through a whole process of correcting my posture and things like that. But when I was reading through your ebook today, like you had all this stuff. You even had like myofascial release in there, and that's been an absolute game changer for me, that stuff. But yeah, so Jason, so then like now the new iteration of Jason Gutsell, how would you describe your modality or what you
do? I'm a coach, athlete, and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I live what I've coined is like the limitless lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm coaching. So I use fitness, food, and fasting basically to live a limitless lifestyle and mindset as well. And kind of what I imagine, how I live and how I experience life, my energy, my superhuman strength, superhuman cognitive abilities. Like I'm fairly switched on.
Yeah, you are.
And I imagine it like you'll have seen the film Limitless, where he takes the pill every day, and he's just.
I haven't seen this.
So, yeah.
I gotta check. There's a few movies on my watch
list. It's like he just turns his life's just down in the dumps and stuff, and then he meets somebody who, it was years ago when I watched it, but he meets somebody I think he used to go to school with or something, and he introduces him to this drug. Takes a pill every day, and then his whole life just changes.
Like what? What does he do?
Just he's completely switched on. He's like he has a complete lifestyle fucking turnaround from just slobbing it, just really not looking after himself, sleeping in, or to just being switched on, looking good, in shape, like all of these things. And I was like, I don't have any limiting. I feel like I don't have any limiting potential. I feel like it's limitless potential, and I'm just like, when I actually thought about the people who I want to help as well, going back to what we were talking about earlier, the niche and stuff like that, finding a niche.
The niche.
It was actually last time I was in Bali, and I'm surrounded by like entrepreneurs and people into fitness, into looking after themselves and stuff. And I was just like, I want to help people who are, successful. They might be successful in business, in finances and stuff, but maybe they still need a helping hand with, their physique, their health, and the other people who maybe they are performing well, they've got, balance of life, they're fit, they're healthy, but they want that extra edge, they want that extra 1%. And I feel through the different methods that I practice, I've got fasting down to, I feel like I've got fasting in the training and stuff down to a T. Like I've done a lot of different experimenting over the years. When I got into fasting, it was like 15 years ago, like didn't even tell anybody because it was like not heard of. And then now it's becoming a very popular thing now. I've got it down to where I can, fast for anywhere. Most days I fast for like 20, 22 hours once a week, two days per week. And then every now and then I do a 3 to 5 day fast. And I've been able to do some pretty, like, I would say, I'm not trying to like blow my own trumpet, but like some pretty pretty impressive stuff, after a 5 day fast. I broke a deadlifting plateau that I hit, 200 kilo deadlift at the lightest I've ever been. And when I looked up at my stats, there's a website called Strength Level that's got like millions of people's stats.
Oh, you can compare your where you're at, age, weight,
everything, yeah. And for the lift that you do, and I was like in the top 4% in the world.
Wow. While fasting.
While fasting, 5 days fasted.
Yeah, what is that about? Let me just get this pointed more towards this way. Oh.
So,
yeah,
with the fasting, so there's a saying that I've got is. Are we good?
I don't want to cover your face. Yeah.
There's a saying that I've got that a cheetah is always fastest when it's hungry. Now, what does that mean? Is, well, if you're so, I believe that I tap into my instincts, into ancient fucking whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because going way back when we used to hunt and gather for food, if you didn't eat for 2 or 3 days, you wouldn't just wake up on the 3rd day and be like, oh, I'm too tired to get food today. You're like, no, I need to be fucking switched on. I need to go and hunt. I need to be strong. I need to be, you need to be, switched on, strong. Yeah. I'm going to go and catch. I'm going to go and hunt. And I feel like I tap into my primal instincts. That's the word I was looking for. And fasting is in our, I believe it's in our like DNA. Like, when we fast, our cells go through this process called autophagy, where it's
a repair, right?
They recycle all the damaged components of the cell. They get rid of any toxins and stuff like that. And it's a process that we've been going through since the dawn of time. If it wasn't for us being able to regenerate through this process called autophagy, our cells being able to regenerate themselves, like, humans wouldn't be around. And we've constantly went through cycles of feast and famine. And when I first got into fasting, didn't know anything about this. I basically saw somebody online and he said, oh, you can build muscle with 1 or 2 meals per day. Me being very kind of open to things and kind of like, I wouldn't mind testing something out like that. It was only 16 hours once a week. And that for me was like, blew my mind, because I was like, I'm going to lose muscle mass. I'm going to lose strength, all of this
stuff. Did you or not?
No. I used to eat like 6 meals a day, small meals a day, protein shakes, all, every 2-3 hours, like they say,
like macros and all that.
And I was just obsessed with it. And I was like, do you know what it is? I will try it, but then I'll take, my meals that I normally eat and I'll eat them in that the 8-hour window. And I'd done that once a week and I had good training session, didn't lose any energy, and then kind of dabbled with it a little bit. And then, I'm not going to say I've been fasting consistently for 15 years. No, I haven't, because like anything with you, whether you're doing fitness or fasting or whatever, you'll kind of come and go to it. You might, let's say a person starts the gym 10 years ago. They probably don't consistently train for 10 years. There's periods of time where they fall off the wagon, let's say.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went into it, then came out of it, and so my background is I worked in IT until I left my job before I came to Bali. I contracted for many years, and I had a job where I was driving around to quarries, cement plants, like basically 3 or 4 hours between. So I would go swap a computer out, make sure they can do what they need to do, and then I would drive another 4 hours. And so I was on the road all the time. I was eating on the road, just stopping off anywhere. And I was
eating shit food, probably.
Eating shit, not training. And because I couldn't train, I was constantly on the road. And I was like, what about if I try doing that fasting again? And so I started to implement the fasting again. Didn't put any weight on, actually lost weight. Wasn't even training at the time. Had like abs and like I was like, this is a good balance. I've got good energy. I'm able to drive around, do the jobs that I need to do, and I'm not being a fat slob on the road, basically. And then after that, continue to do like 16 hours a day because it was so easy. Once I was into it, it's only skipping breakfast really, and going till 12 o'clock, not eating after 8 o'clock at night. And it just became so easy. And so how I got into more long form fasting, I was working in London at the time, and I became so busy with work, and that 12 o'clock meal that I would usually have, what ended up being like at 2, 3 o'clock. And I realized I'm full of energy. I haven't eaten all day. And then again, being so busy, didn't eat to the 2 or 3 o'clock. I was like, I'm not hungry. I was like, I wonder what'll happen if I go all day and not eat. And I knew I had a training session straight after work. Excuse me.
That's right.
I knew I had a training session straight after work, and I was like, again, I like to experiment, whether that's with training, whether that's with food or whatever. I was like, I wonder what my training session would be like if I don't eat at all. And so I fasted all day, went to the gym. 5 o'clock came, went to the gym and had an absolutely insane session. And that was when the penny dropped. I was like, I feel like I'm tapping into something here. I feel like I'm tapping into some sort of superpowers, honestly, because you wouldn't if you'd have asked me 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and if you ask anybody now, who doesn't have any experience in fasting, because people think, oh, you should be eating throughout the day to fuel your workouts. And it's like, if you would ask me that 10 years ago, I'd be like, no, you need to be eating before you train. And then, you need to eat throughout the day. You need to eat before you train so that you've got enough energy for your workout. And it just completely blew my mind. And so I dabbled a bit more with the 24-hour fasting. I went between 20 and 24 hours. And then once that became comfortable, I started looking into it more. And I was like, okay, then, so what is this superpower? What am I tapping into here? And so I started looking into it, and I found I learned about autophagy. I learned about mitochondrial biogenesis. I learned about all this stuff that happens in your body while you're going throughout this fast. And then I started to think logically. Okay, so many years ago, going back to the hunter-gatherer days, we probably didn't eat for 2 or 3 days at a time. And so how did we survive? How were we able to hunt? How were we able to, have the energy and the strength to be able to go out and hunt for our prey, kill it, take it down, carry it back to camp, all of this stuff. And then from there, it was just, cycling different forms of fasting, playing around with how much food I eat. And then something tweaked for me, because I didn't used to eat as much as I do now, because I didn't feel like I needed to eat that much. But then my training kind of stepped up a little bit. And then I also thought, well, let's say you're out hunting gathering with your tribe, and you catch an animal, you take it back to camp and kill it, cook it all up, whatever, and you sit down. You wouldn't just if you had a plate of food or whatever you ate off, and you wouldn't just eat half of it and just go.
You don't have refrigeration or anything.
You wouldn't say.
You'd have to eat the whole thing.
You would eat as much as you could. You don't know when you're going to eat again. So then I was like, maybe you're supposed to cycle fasting with feasting. Feasting and fasting. And then I thought about it, and I was just like, maybe this makes sense. And so I believe in feasting. So when I eat a lot of food in my short eating window. And it can be 4,000 or 5,000 calories in a 2-hour window, and when I tell people that, it blows their mind a little bit. And I suppose I have trained myself to eat quite a bit to be able to feast. I do have calorie dense food as well, but
what do you mean by that? Like carbs or something?
Fats.
I
have a lot of fats. Yeah. So I use a lot of. I put a lot of olive oil on my food, extra virgin olive oil, when I'm cooking food.
Avocados, grass-fed butters.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of this stuff. I've got in a bit into that. I've done fasting before. I did the master cleanse a few times. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
It's like a 10 days no eating, and you take like cayenne pepper, lemon juice, water, and then you do a salt flush in the morning. It's like a detox thing, right? But it takes out the whole, like your whole gut, basically. You're pulling out all the lining, and then you're building up new lining in your gut. So for the fasting, like I did, it's really 14 days because you do 2 days of juicing at the beginning and the end. So it's like 2 weeks and 10 days of no food in the middle. And like you think, oh, how are you going to not eat for 14 days? But actually the first 3 days are really hard. And then once you get past day 3, it's like so easy. And your body just goes into a whole nother mode. I think it starts like cleaning, filtering your blood, going into some other processes. And I was doing light training and stuff as well. Like it was great. Felt really clear. My skin became really clear. My eyes got really white. Like, I felt like it was a very positive experience. But I don't do I've tried a little bit the intermittent fasting. But I'm somebody that used to skip breakfast a lot. Like I just wouldn't have breakfast. I would have a coffee, black coffee, or and then have something around lunchtime, 1 o'clock, and then, grab dinner. But I found that actually it was causing me to like, I put on weight or like keep weight in some reason. I don't know, for some reason. I just started on the meal plan, doing a meal plan at the gym, and now I'm eating at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., have a shake at 3 p.m. and then have dinner at 6 p.m. So I'm eating at the same times every day. And now the weight's like stripping off, and I thought that it was because, maybe my body knows now that it can get rid of fat because it knows it's getting food, and it doesn't have to hold on to that body fat anymore. It's like a safety deposit, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I do agree with that, and this is another reason why I like, if clients ask, and I usually start them off on a very high intake as well, because so what some people have done in the past is, I had this one client on, and she was on for 3 weeks with me, and she didn't, her first 3 weeks, and she didn't lose anything. She's like, I'm fasting all day, and I'm training, and I'm like, yes, but look at your food. And I told her, you need to eat more, and she didn't listen.
She wasn't eating more, so her body was like freaking out and trying to store stuff.
So if you're basically telling your body, right, we're not eating that often. So one of the things she was pushing the fasting, she was doing OMAD, 1 meal a day, and the other thing she wasn't eating.
Oh, what OMAD?
OMAD is 1 meal a day. Yeah, that's what that means. So
digital OMAD.
And 3 weeks in, she's like, I'm not losing anything. I was like, I told you need to eat more. And she's thinking like, if I eat less, I'm gonna get there quicker. And it's like your body's metabolism can fluctuate, and if you're basically saying, you're telling your body, right, one, we're not eating that frequently, and when we do, we're not eating that much, and so your body's going to say, well, I probably want to hold on to some of that, With me, I do fast all day, and I do some 2, 3, 4, 5 day fasts, but when I do eat, I feast, so my body kind of knows that I'm.
It's like, it's safe, because it's like, okay, don't worry, Jason's going to get us sorted out later.
And the thing is, it's like having a high intake of food is like, it keeps the metabolism high.
Yeah, right on. So then what's the school of thought then there with food? Like, are you eating, when you say high fats, is it keto? Like
no.
Or do you mix a bit of carbs in there too?
I have carbs every day.
Okay. So what's your thoughts on keto?
It works for some people. Do I feel like it's fully sustainable based on the people who I've talked to and stuff? I don't. But then I see some people online who, they're fairly sustainable with it. And I think nutrition is a very personalized thing. You can't just say carnivore is the way to go, veganism or whatever is the way to go, or plant-based is the way to go, or vegetarian's the way to go, or whatever the diet is. What I do believe in is whole foods. So, more single ingredient foods. I've got a saying, it's like, kind of my philosophy that I live by is like, if it grows from the ground, if it runs on the ground, if it swims in the sea and it's edible, then eat it. you know, and figure out if it sits right with you, you know, because some foods might not sit right with some people, and some they're okay with for other people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if you know Paul Chek at all. You heard of him? He's a holistic lifestyle coach.
I might have seen.
He's
there's
pretty
a lot
well
of people
known.
out there, yeah.
He's like very famous for bringing the Swiss ball into gyms and things like that. But he's got the Chek Academy, and then he's got this thing. I don't know if it's his thing or if it's something he uses, but it's the diet types. And so basically, you've got this form that, you know, this questionnaire that you fill out, and it's just going off intuition. Do you feel good when you eat this? How do you feel when you eat this particular thing? And then you're just going off how you actually feel when you eat those things, and then you get like a score, and then it'll tells you, okay, you're polar type. I'm a polar type. So it's like high fats. I should stay away from like breads and carbs unless it's like sprouted breads or things like that. So it's like, I think genetics probably has a lot to do with it.
Genetic. I mean, you know, our gene pools are so diverse these days, you know, because of, you know.
Yeah, colonization.
So, you know, maybe back in the day before there was any of this happening, you would have ate what was local to you, what grew in your local back garden or whatever, you know, or what you could hunt and gather and forage. And that would be probably the perfect diet for you. But going back to what you were saying about, what was his name again?
Paul Chek.
Paul Chek. Shout out to Paul Chek.
Yeah.
Going back to what Paul's doing there is, I do a similar thing with my clients. So this went back to, I'm very intuitive with what I eat and how it makes me feel. Yeah. The other thing with fasting as well is, you know, you're only eating once or twice a day. So if you have something that triggers you, you've got more of an idea of what that food is.
Yeah, it's like an elimination thing.
Well, if you're eating 5 or 6 times a day,
how do you know what it was?
How do you know what it was? You don't. Do you know what I mean? So you don't. And so one of the things I get clients to do is track everything from their food, their macros, to the time they eat, how long they fasted for, energy levels, sleep, their mood, stress levels. And then what I do, I look at all of this data and I look for patterns. And I'll give you an example. I had a client on early last year who was actually testing this out for me, because I'll start on the background of this. I actually created my own fasting journal where you would log all this like manually. And a few years ago, I started filling it out in Bali, and I used to just fill it out every day, and I would look for patterns. You know, if there's times where my mood level is low, okay, was I eating something in particular on that day, or did I eat too late, or, you know, I had a great training session. Okay, what did I do? What basically looking for
pattern. You're looking for a pattern based on how you're feeling.
Basically,
and the
trend
results.
analysis on it. And
what did you find?
So I'll give you this example of a client I had on last year. So I digitalized that journal. Basically, I digitalized it, given my IT background, and it became part of my.
It's like an app or something.
It's on our platform on Fasting 101.
Okay.
So it's not an app yet, because it's kind of like, we're figuring out what works basically before we build out an whole app, it costs a lot of money to build apps.
Well, just on that, I know you seen this Cal AI thing? It's like a Chat GPT wrapper, and you take a photo of your.
I've tried a few of them, and then I haven't gotten them to be consistent.
Yeah, we should talk about this, because there's some interesting stuff with AI now, and AI agents. You can actually build apps with like using AI, like wrappers with you just type in what you want the app to do, and these programs will actually build it for you without coding. Right. But we can talk about that offline. But definitely. It's interesting that what you got. So what did you notice?
So she was logging everything: her food, her fasting, energy levels were high, mood level was high, stress was low, sleep was great. And then this one day, she
had a chocolate brownie or something.
She had a McDonald's.
Oh.
And she marked stress levels was high, mood level was low, and then on the following evening, her sleep was poor. She had poor sleep as well. And so I was looking at the data, and I was thinking, she's been having great weeks, and then now she's having like, you know, she's marking down 1s and 2s, and I was just like, what is it there that's like, what's what stands out to me, and I just looked and it was McDonald's, and I was just like,
but what is that? Is it the quality of the food? Is it the chemicals in the food? Is it the like what is it?
I think it is, yeah. I think maybe, you know, she's eating whole nutritious foods, and then she goes to eating processed stuff with, you know, their fries are fried in seed oil, which are highly inflammatory and you know, highly processed. And it's like the gut is known as like the second brain. And there's another saying that I've got, half of it comes from one of my clients a few years ago, but it's like, good food, good mood.
I like it.
Eat rubbish, feel sluggish. And it's always stuck with me, that. And it's like, you know, like the good, it is like the second brain. It's the thing. It's what's it got, like 5 times. Like, tell me if I'm wrong here, but no, 5 times more neurons in the brain.
Something crazy like that. It's wild. I mean, it's so funny. I say this all the time, but for some reason, this podcast, we always end up. It doesn't matter who comes on here, but we always end up back at the gut. Yeah, we always talk about poo, and we talk about gut, and it's just so linked to everything, like soil, food, gut, biome, you know, all of this stuff. And I mean, I've gone through this huge journey with it, and it also, you know, it affects every chemical in your body. It affects every decision that you're making, and your ability to actually tap into your intuition as well and make good quality decisions. Because a lot of the decisions that we make are from emotions. So if you're being driven by your food in terms of your emotion, then the decisions that you're making are determined by the food that you're eating. So you literally are what you eat. So you got to be careful about that.
Definitely.
And I mean, like, since I've been doing this meal plan, I feel so on point. Like, I feel positive. I feel happy. I feel clear. I feel like I'm making really good decisions. I'm meeting really good people. It's just it's a whole world of difference, you know. I've lost over 15 kilos this last year, you know. And I used to love drinking beer, like I still do, you know. Like, I'm very good at it. Like, I can slay a beer. You know, maybe sometimes I'll do it, like Christmas Day I had a few beers or whatever, but like, you notice that instantly too. Like, I used to be like 3 o'clock, I was stinging for a beer. I was absolutely stinging.
Was that every day as well, is it?
Oh, yeah. You know, we'd crack a beer in the studio, whatever. Like, I love it. But you know, you do notice it does something for you, you know. It's like a stress relief. But if you're living like a lifestyle where you're actually managing your stress and you're paying attention to what's actually going on in your body, then you don't really crave those things, because you don't, like, I'm dealing with it in healthier ways now. So it is it's a big shift. Like, now I'm like more focused on like my nervous system and, like, you know, internally, rather than like working out the outside stuff to, you know, deal with what's going on internally. And then it's a feedback loop, so it presents on the out, right? So yeah, I'm on the trip. I'm on board.
What do you think about this? So, like, I had this kind of theory, right? Is, so we think now with our, you know, you get the gut feeling.
Yeah.
And it's got 5 times more so people think that we think with our brain. Do you just think with your brain? Do we think that the mind's just in the brain? Because you get feelings in your gut, you get feelings in the heart, you get feelings in your throat. And I'm like, what if these are like energy centers where they've got more and I don't know this, I haven't looked into it. Are there like a bunch of neurons in the heart? Are there a bunch of neurons in the throat?
I actually saw a video yesterday with Prince. You know Prince?
Of
Purple Rain. Raspberry Beret. But he was talking on some show, and he was talking about thinking, and he was saying, you know, as an artist, as a creative, you know, we're not thinking about the artwork, we're just creating from our hearts, and then it's not till someone picks up that content or that thing or that podcast or that piece of artwork, and then they start, you know, analyzing it, going into the analytical mind, and then it becomes something else. The perception of it gets completely warped. And he's like, no, the head's not for thinking, the heart's for thinking. And I think, you know, there's probably a multitude of things going on there with with thought, you know, there's probably half of it's going on up there somewhere. You're not even like, not even in your physical body.
No, I agree. And I know, well, I don't even think there's a subject here, but I believe there's an intelligence all around us, I believe, you know, and I believe everything is made up of energy, right? You know, we just, you know, on the microscopic level, we're just atoms at the end of the day, right? Now, there's an intelligence controlling that atom energy, whatever it is. So going back a few years ago, I got blood tests here, all sorts of blood tests. Anyways, I'm sat in the clinic and she puts my blood between the two slides of glass and she puts it on and she's like,
oh no, what's in there?
And she was like showing us, and honestly, like, they're all just moving in their own kind of way. She was like, oh, this is a white blood cell. This is like a heavy metal particle. Your white blood cells are like a little army around it, like trying to kill it. She was like, this is a stem cell. This is, and then you just saw all these red blood cells just all move in a, you know, all together in a very like
swarming.
And she was like, oh, you've got really good chi, you've got really good energy, this and the other. And then that just blew my mind. And this was like kind of like I think, like, you know, I've been on a bit of a spiritual journey this past 5-6 years. And it just blew my mind. And I was like, well, that blood is not inside of me no more. I'm not controlling it. And it's got a mind of its own. I was like, what's telling it to do?
What is it?
Do you know what I mean? And I was just blew my mind a little bit. And I was just like, everything is energy, and there's just like something that you just can't explain. Like the consciousness, the God, whatever you want to call it, is this intelligent substance that just shifts through fucking space and time, and it's
pretty wild. I think about that sometimes with breathing. Actually, I'm like, are you breathing or are you being breathed? It's really weird. Like when you think about it, because it's like, you know, you think about this, like I'm into systems thinking, right? Systems design, and like, you know, your body's a complex system. And it's like, if your brain had to make every single decision, like breathe now, blink your eyes, digest this food, you know, send this there, cover that, you know, clean that blood, autophagies,
literally everything.
If this was going through your mind all the time, you would just
explode.
you'd just be a heap on the floor. You'd be like, you know, like a fembot, you know, like exploding, whatever, having a meltdown. So it's like, yeah, how is your body's just such an amazing system, an amazing machine. Like it's just constantly making decisions on your behalf, or like there's all these different things making decisions around, like who is really doing the thinking.
Well, apparently we're made up of more microbes than we are DNA, human
microbes,
DNA, like microbes and bacteria and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like going back to the eating. So when you're eating shit food, you kind of get cravings for that shit food, and are you feeding the bacteria in your gut that's saying, I want to eat the rubbish, you know?
Well, I had this, and this is something else that we often talk about on this podcast, but it hasn't been for a few episodes. I'll bring it back in. But parasites, right? Mm-hmm. I went on this journey with parasite cleansing. I've done 8 in the last 2 years, 8 2 and a bit years, 8 cleanses, right? And I just did it on a whim because I thought, oh, you know, that'll be a good thing to do. Why not? I'll do it. But I could not believe the amount, liver flukes, pinworms, roundworms, like all of the crazy stuff that was coming out, like aliens. Like honestly, have you done it? You probably, because you're fasting, you're probably killing off these things all the time.
Do you know what it is? Again, going back to when I got, you know, my bloods tested and everything here, I got the flush and everything, and I took the tablets. Like, this was not long ago, actually. I still had them. I was like, I need to just do this it. Because for me, a lot of stuff revolves around my training, and I'm like, I don't like being out of routine as well. And I was just like, well, take this stuff, I'm going to be on the toilet, this, that, and the other, and then I just kind of putting it off. You know, you can just put anything off. Took the tablets, and I forgot to do the flush with the salt stuff, so I never
It never
Never
went
followed through. Well, I've never noticed. You know what I mean? So if I've passed something, I don't know if I have.
This was like the cleanse that I was doing was like 1 month.
Right.
You're taking herbs. You're eating like no sugar, no carbs, no stimulants, and you're doing like a month of it. Then you take 2 weeks off. Then you do it like because the eggs need to hatch. Then you do another month. Okay. Then you do so you're actually going through this process where you're trying to get through all the waves of them because they're sneaky. They hide in metals. They use metals to like hide. They use solvents. They get into all those bacterias and they use these parasites and things. So there's actually a lady I heard about named Hilda Clark. Have you heard of her?
The name rings a bell, but
yeah, she's like a parasite I don't know about an expert, but she's really made a lot around these parasite protocols and a lot of content, a lot of protocols and stuff. And basically, she wrote a book called The Cure for All Diseases or something to that effect. Hilda Clark, Hulda, Hilda. But she believed that all disease was solvents and parasites. So they kind of work together, like metals, plastic chemicals, all the pesticides, blah, 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 all the stuff that we have around the homes. Over the years we've started introducing these things into our environment. And then it unbalances your whole system, and then that's when you get overgrowth of bacteria. And like to me, I used to be a craft beer brewer, actually. I used to make beer in a past life of mine. I was really into brewing and particularly lagers. And one thing about working with yeasts and bacteria, or you need sterile environments. And like it makes so much sense to me that when you sterilize like a stainless or something, a fermenter or whatever, if there's any scratches or anything in there, which is kind of what metals do or solvents do in your system. They make these little kind of abrasions in your tissue. You can imagine that's where bacteria will start to form. It makes so much sense to me.
It does.
And then they grow. Do they then turn into cancers and things like that? That to me from that side kind of makes sense. But she also would have these. She's got this thing called a zapper, and you hold it. It's like it runs an electric frequencies through it runs multiple electric frequencies through your system, so it actually gets all the parasites and things out of your tissues, because they hide in your body.
And
then
do you just pass them or something? Like how does that work?
I'm not sure. I don't know about the ones in your tissue. Maybe they just like your body flushes them somehow. I don't know, but I know they get in your guts. You hear about people getting them in there, that like you see sometimes weird phenomenons of people getting worms in their brains and stuff like that, right? Like weird stuff. But yeah, like I notice when I got these things out, and I mean we always get them. It's a process, right? We got to continuously do maintenance on these parasite protocols and things like that. But I noticed that the foods that I craved were completely different. Like the beer cravings, like I don't really have those anymore. Maybe if I see like a little frothy somewhere, it's not safe. But but no, I don't generally. But I think like when you have like candida overgrowths and fungal overgrowths, your body, like the fungus wants that. I want the sugar, I want the carbs,
Because it's trying to survive, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it starts controlling your brain. It's weird. It's like
there's like a little universe inside of us, honestly, and it's nuts.
It's so weird.
Blows my mind.
So when did you start getting into this stuff? Like, did you have like a health scare, or like were you always healthy? Were you always into that?
So when I started the gym, when I get into something, I like to get into it. And when I started the gym,
like I'm like no half-assner.
And when I got into the gym, I was like, okay, how can I eat better? And it was it's not like an overnight thing. It's something that and especially with all the nutritional advice and everything out there these days and stuff, and it's like thinking that this is good for you, that's good for you, like whey proteins and stuff like that. And
I don't like the whey proteins.
I haven't had them in years.
They make me bloated and they make my skin no good. What's that about?
Well, they are, you know, highly processed, but they usually come with a bunch of other crap that's in them, you know, fillers and even artificial sweeteners, sucralose, aspartame, like all of that stuff. And for me, I was just like, well, I enjoy eating food. You know, I've got no issue with being able to eat enough food to put on muscle. So why, you know, it's a supplement. For the reason you are supplementing.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably just better off eating some good quality protein rather than that, right? Like whole food, like chicken or something.
And so that's where this was years ago. So I was into the gym, started looking into nutrition and stuff, and I used to eat, you know, again, 5-6 meals a day. It was usually chicken, rice, some veg, and then protein shakes and some fruit, which, you know, isn't, compared to the standard person, it's fairly healthy. And then just as the years went on, started to understand that fats don't actually make you fat, and you need fats for your hormones. And
wasn't that a whole bloody what do you even call it, like a bit of a misguided information, the food pyramid?
Well, do you know how this low fat, no fat thing came around?
Who's behind that?
So apparently the scientists or whoever who were doing things for Coca-Cola basically said that it wasn't sugar, it was fat.
Yeah, let's blame fat.
And that's where all this like low fat, no fat thing came from. And then after years and years and years, like after, you know, it only takes one generation for people just to think, oh well, it's fat.
Well, they just indoctrinate people on that at school. Let's make up this food pyramid. Fat
makes you fat, you know, and logically, it sounds like it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, you eat fat, you're gonna get fat. Don't eat fat. Eat sugar.
But there's another way that I look at this is like, if your body is, you know, it's very adaptable, and we have body fat and we store body fat, right? And that body fat, like you said earlier, is like a supply of energy. Now, if we aren't eating fats, our body finds it difficult to burn fat because it's not used to using fats as a fuel. You know, it's used to.
Yeah, that's why people get the keto flu, right? Like when you start eating keto and your body's going into ketosis. I've had this before where my body like goes into like you get sniffly nose, because your body's switching fuel source.
Switching fuel source, but the other thing about that is our toxins and stuff are stored in our fats.
Oh, so it's coming
out. Some of that it'll be tapping into, you know, some probably old fat that's got toxins and shit stored in it.
You know what? When I did this Parasite cleanse, the one round when I was in Bali, I got like what do you call it? A Herxheimer's reaction. Do you know Herxheimer's? It's like when your body's like releasing lots of toxins, but my eye got super swollen here, like I've got video of it. I'll show you. I started taking all these like biotoxin binders and anti-parasitic herbs and shit, and then like this bloody lump came on my eye. I'm like, oh my god, is there a parasite coming out of my eye? It was like this weird reaction. But our bodies, like, they're just like, okay, great, we're getting rid of it now, let's go. And it gets to work. It knows what to do if you give it the right environment.
It does. And I also feel that if you're going from one thing to another, so if you're going from, you know, standard lifestyle to, right, I'm doing a 30-day cleanse, it's quite of a big shock to the system, I would say. And it's like, maybe if you were a person, like, I'm not saying you're not now, but like a person who followed, or you weren't then or whatever, but if you followed like good health and good diet, your body's maybe processing some of this toxins and stuff.
I think it wasn't so bad. I think it was like, because there was all this die-off from the parasites, I think they were releasing toxins. Because my diet wasn't so bad.
Fair enough.
Like this is like, I'm into the journey now.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
I've never really been like my mum was always really good with food. We never ate junk food at home. Like we always had like, you know, she was my parents are really into like good food, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like good, always would go to the butchers and get the nice meats and the nice veggies and stuff like that. So I was really lucky like that because I was always around, you know, I got to see that nice food stuff, you know. So, you know, I never really had a super bad diet. But I think that when you like to have a beer, you do kind of like, you know, you want to have a greasy meal here or there, pub meals or whatever. But no, I'm now like when this happened, like I'm into the journey. But I really believe that the parasites, when you start killing them off, they're like they start melting and fucking letting all their, you know, the die off happens. So I think that's what the reaction was here in my eye. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It was weird. I put a video on TikTok with the parasites. It got like, gosh, it's up to like 150,000 views or something. Like it's like I don't have a huge
I've
TikTok.
seen some of the videos on them,
and people are like,
mad.
"That's not parasites, that's tomatoes." Or like, "Girl, you're crazy. You're going through your poo," and all this stuff, like all these commentaries and shit like this. And I'm like, people are shocked. They don't get it. Like people are like, "I'm a health professional. I'm a nurse. I'm a this. I'm a doctor. I'm a toxicologist. I'm a blah." And I'm like, that. They're like, "That's not parasites." I'm like, no. Like I've got hundreds of photos of these. Like you guys, like they're not educated about it.
Mm-hmm.
They think that parasites are microscopic. They think that, well, like there are all these things that are microscopic, right? Like you're just talking about some of your blood, but like there's all sorts of bloody things living in there. You don't want to know about half of it. So then what? Like you went on this journey. You discovered these you know, you discovered this kind of fasting was a bit of a superpower. And then, like, where does the calisthenics stuff come into the play? Because you're really into the.
So I used to do a lot of lifting. Lifted since I was like 18 or so. 34-year-old now, and I hurt my shoulder and damaged my shoulder. I got injured.
Like doing weights or
lifting weights.
Yeah. Like deadlifting.
Heavy, pushing heavy. So shoulder press, bench press.
Yeah.
I deadlift, I squat and everything, but it was mainly pushing exercises and doing too much of them and not doing enough recovery work. Mobility, stretching, that sort of stuff. Anyways, got injured. Couldn't train for like 3 months. Went back to it. Training, ego takes over. Oh, I want to lift heavy again, gets injured again. And so then I had about 2 years where I was out of the gym. I was like, fuck this, you know, I keep getting injured. I'm done, because it messes with you. It really does mess with your head when you're like so much into it and it's something you really, really love.
Yeah, that's it.
And
lose your thing that you do.
At the time, I was fairly active. I also had a hot tub hire company. That was like one of my first businesses. And so on a night after work, I was carrying hot tubs, putting them out on a weekend. So I was fairly active and I was in shape. And, you know, I was just like, well, I'm just not training at this point in my life. Then I moved down to London, in shape, still doing the fasting, eating fairly well. And then after work on a night, instead of where I would usually go to the gym, you know, I wasn't putting hot tubs out no more, so I wasn't getting that physical activity. I used to like a drink as well. I really used to like a drink.
What do you like? A pint?
Pints, vodka, like everything.
Yeah.
I had pretty mad party days.
Do you still have a little sneaky beer? Not at
never,
all?
Never now. Since May last year. But this is like a journey. The stop and drink, the alcohol has been going on for around 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I still like to sometimes, but not very often.
The thing is with me is like I told you earlier, I want to get to an elite level in calisthenics. I want to be, you know, the best in the world for like my age, my weight, and the person who wants that does not drink alcohol. And I know how I feel off it. I can have one beer and the next day I'm feeling like shit, negative thoughts, and I don't perform as well.
I get like a puffiness. My eyes get puffy.
Anxiety and stuff. Like I get it off like very small amounts.
I get that.
So what the kind of start of the calisthenics, I was getting into handstands. So anyways, going back to living in London, I'll go back a little bit. I was going out for a pint every night. And then I noticed I'm starting to put a bit of weight on, diet's starting to slip slightly. And then I was just like, hold on a second. I was like, there's two types of people in London. There's one who goes to the pub after work and there's one who goes to the gym after work. I was like, I'm the fucking gym boy. Like I'm obsessed with it. And so I was like, I'm going back to the gym, but I'm not going to lift heavy. I'm going to do body weight stuff. And I was like, maybe I'll learn a handstand.
Prison workouts.
Just like, pull-ups, dips, squats, that sort of stuff. And I always wanted to learn a handstand. Started learning handstands and then met my coach, who was my coach back then. I saw him in the gym, actually. He's like really, really well known in the calisthenics scene. And saw him like training somebody. And he's won like world fucking, like he's been the best in the world at what he does at one point. Anyways, I seen him training somebody and doing handstands and some other things, like back lever progressions and stuff. And I was just like, I just spoke to him. I spoke to him in the changing rooms. I was like, oh, do you train people? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I want to get some sessions in. And I didn't even know what calisthenics was. I was just like, he's like, what do you like? What is it you want to do? I was like, I want to learn a handstand. So we started doing handstands. Then he taught me a couple of other like basic progressions to like back lever, front lever. And then he invited me down to one of the local calisthenics parks one weekend. There's quite a few of them in London.
I've seen some of these gyms.
It blew my mind just seeing everybody doing all of this mad stuff, flipping around bars, handstands, planches, like all of this stuff. And I was just like, this is insane.
It's a bit of a subculture, isn't it? That whole calisthenics thing.
It's a really, really, really good community, honestly. Like, anyway, I used to say, like, anytime I went down to the bars on the weekend, I either learned a new skill or made a new friend. Like, the community is second to none. Like, anybody in the calisthenics scene will agree with this.
Is it particularly big in London or is it global?
It's global. It's like, it's been in the UK for probably 10 years or so, but it's still growing in the UK, and it's mainly in London where it's at, I would say. Now it is obviously moving out to other areas, but there's a bigger calisthenics scene in London.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like got really into that for a while. Like I started looking into calisthenics, but then because I had this like postural stuff that I wanted to fix, but then I ended up going down a different road. I ended up getting into like functional patterns and focus more on like, thoracic rotation and gait cycle and stuff like that. I mean, right now I just kind of feel like I need to learn how to like actually walk on my feet or stand on my feet first before I like, try and start doing handstands and things like that. Because but it's just a different. I had to sort some stuff out, but I wonder how that all fits together, like with calisthenics, because it is kind of like you're not really you're not doing like when I see someone do like a deadlift or like a.
Well, it's less stress on your joints and stuff, You're lifting body weight. Don't get me wrong. You're putting
lifting heavy is good, though. I think if you move correctly, like it's good for you to lift heavy.
I do both. I don't just do calisthenics. I lift. I do love lifting, but I feel like if you get the balance right between them, they can help each other. There's certain movements that follow the same kind of movement. Overhead press, for instance. Handstand push up. That's just like one example of it.
See, now I just stick to cable machine and dumbbells, like free weights, like doing movement thoracic stuff, and kettlebells is like my go-to. I just like kettlebells and coffee. Is my thing, yeah. I mean, but that kind of is anti the functional patterns. They're not really into the coffee because they're really into hydrating your tissue. Like you're talking about myofascial release in your ebook. But myofascial release, I didn't realize this is actually hydration. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, like I did.
Or like getting basically water into the.
Yeah. So what, from my understanding, because I did this functional patterns 10-week course, and it was literally just most of it was myofascial release. And they teach you, like, there's this thing called the anatomy trains, and it's like it shows you all the fascial lines in your body. And like what I didn't realize is that your body's actually held together by tensegrity, which is a systems thinking thing. You know, this is going back to my methodology, design methodology, like Buckminster Fuller. Tensegrity is tensional integrity. So basically, if you imagine your body, it's got all these rubber bands going around it, you know. So when you stand up, there's tension and torque. There's competing and complementary forces, you know, that so your body actually stands up. Because your body's not actually, your bones don't touch each other. You know, it's not bone on bone. There's tension that kind of gets you standing upright. So the fascia is actually like a series of like this tissue. It acts like elastics or tensions. So basically, you know, when you have like a postural dysfunction or something like that, it can be like dehydrated tissue, which is actually stuck somewhere, like,
and causing like an imbalance.
Yeah. So like, let's imagine like, you know, my t-shirt is like my fascia and my shoulder here is like rolled in, and I think, oh yeah, let me deal with this shoulder, but actually something here
could be pulling down
is stuck and dehydrated here because I've had some weird movement pattern, and this is now dehydrated and calcified, this fascia here on my hip. So because there's a cross that goes across, a spiral line across your body, it's actually pulling you like that through the tensegrity's out. You follow me?
Yeah.
So like for a lot of the time when I started doing that functional pattern stuff, the coach was like, the guy's name was Michael Ripicoy, a big Kiwi guy, Maori guy. Like he used to like get like myofascia release in there, and he's like this big Maori guy, and he's like getting in there. He's so scary, super strong. But like, yeah, they were like, no, you can't, no, like you got to stop everything, stop every movement, no running, nothing. Like we need to get the walking pattern right. So then they just put like these lines on the ground, and then you're like teaching me like, okay, now this is how you put your foot down, or like, so then, and then that cup, like with myofascia release, which like when you press, so myofascia is like this sticky web stuff, right? So it's like a sponge. So when you're doing the release and you're pressing, you're actually squeezing it, and then when you let go of the water, it's like a sponge, the water goes back inside. And then when you couple that with like movement, you know, and then you're basically starting to like loosen it up, you know, like, so that's my understanding of it. But I had like when I learned that, I was like, whoa, like this has completely changed my whole world. And I was completely rotated because I rode surf boats for 10 years. In Australia, we have like surf lifesaving, and we row these part of that, like surf clubs on the beach, you know, like the lifesavers. Like you ever watch Home and Away?
Many years ago, yeah.
Okay, there you go. So like at the surf club, you'd have like, you know, we have surf boats, and I'd row out there, but I was rowing this way the
just
whole
one
time.
side.
So you know, of course, I'm completely out of balance.
I think most people are. I mean,
that's extreme.
Most people are one side. No, that is extreme. Yeah,
yeah, for 10 years doing that, and it's a big movement, heavy weight.
And so when what led you to this? Did you actually physically have pain or problems or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I used to get a lot of tension in my neck, migraines, headaches, things like that. But you know, I knew that I could feel like I was never comfortable. You know, I always felt like I was being pulled forward.
Yeah.
I could feel like it was really hard for me to sit up. And then I've got like my family, you know, like I've got that in my family, scoliosis, kyphosis. My dad's got a pretty bad kyphosis. You know, so it's there.
Talking about being one-sided, I'm just gonna.
Oh yeah, no, that's
I like
right.
to do that every so often.
That's right.
I'm sitting for a long time.
So genetically, yeah, there's that there. But I think like it's funny that though, because you do have to wonder about that as well, because it's like, is it genetics? Maybe that's part of it, but you learn these walking patterns from your family. Like the weirdest
just about
thing,
to see that.
Like, have you ever seen a video of Tiger Woods' son on the golf course? Have you ever seen it?
No. I haven't really watched much golf, to be honest.
It's insane. Like the mannerisms. It's like identical.
Is it?
Yes. So it's like, but is it DNA or is it because they
is it learned?
It's learned, or I'm not sure. Maybe a
Or
bit
both.
of both. But it's wild, like just the
and your genetics can. I heard that you can when you make a new friend, your genetics can change.
Really?
And I don't know how that works.
Like, but like vibrational wise or what?
I don't know. Something I'd heard it like many years ago, but I wish I knew more about it to go into more detail. But it's like, what were we talking about the other day? Where, if a woman's pregnant and she's going through a stressful environment, and then the kid can maybe have problems when it comes out because it's like prepared for that stressful environment.
For the environment that it's.
And is that passed down through genetics, through like cells learning and then passing that on? Like, I'm not a genetics expert or anything.
No, but I think there's truth in that, right? Because your DNA is essentially like storing data. That's how. Well, that's kind of like how evolution would happen, right? It's like, okay, this environment, feedback, okay, iterate, response, next iteration, okay, adapt. Like that's how like it would work, right? So it does make sense. But then like the whole functional patterns thing is that they believe in like switching on DNAs, like you're activating different parts of DNA, and then through movement, because you're activating. I don't know what I don't know the science behind it, but like when you're moving in different patterns, you're activate. Like their theory is that you're activating different parts of your DNA. So it's like if you hang around with certain people, like you notice that people have similar manner. Like two friends start, looking very similar in the mannerisms. So maybe there is something there where your DNA starts going. This is tribe. This is now our, like, I don't know. It's a trip. It's a trip.
It is. I think we're more connected than what people realize. And, like going back to women again, you can have 3 women who live together or they start living together and their cycles will start to sync and stuff like that. And it's like, how does that?
And everyone gets PMS at the same time. And it's fucking terrible.
So like it's there's some stuff that like we're still learning. We're still going to be learning in 100 years probably about the human body, and it's just so complex.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. So then, where do you see this going? Like, I love to ask this question because we are now. My teacher Matt said this. He's like, which I thought was very interesting. It's like we are the first generation that's pretty much the result of a synthetic environment. If your environment's a feedback loop, okay, essentially, you create your environment creates you. So like now we are the result of a synthetic man-made environment. So what are we making of ourselves? And where does this go? And where does this fit in with this whole health, wellness, fasting? Like, do you think that this is helping us to stay more, like, are we creating an environment where trying to maintain some of our humanity, or like our, like, what is it?
I don't know. So like, I see as the years go on, we're going to, I mean, you're already seeing it, you've got tech watches and everything that's like monitoring. I mean, you can get a ring these days that monitors everything. And so we are going down that kind of AI Terminator route. And like, I think it's, so one of the things that I would...
You're doing it too. You tattoo us. I noticed that.
I'm a machine.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, with the fast, and the Faster 101 is, where I started with the coaching business, and where I actually, so going on, where I get clients to log everything from food, everything, basically looking at data. So I want to basically eventually have our own tech watch, our own scales that you stand on, or a ring, perhaps, maybe in the next 5-10 years. So it's not like I just want to coach. As I said before, I'm not just a coach. I'm like an entrepreneur, and I always look at the future and where things are going. And as well as taking data from the person, inputting data themselves, like taking all of this data and basically using AI to look at this data and look for patterns and consistently optimize what people are doing. So, you know, whether that's like literally giving away some ideas here, but you know, you basically eat something, you get an alert on your phone, and it basically says, "Oh, we've just noticed that your blood sugar spiked," and it's
You see people with those things on, those little spikes, right? That's what they are.
Yeah, yeah.
I see people sometimes with these little things taped into their arm. It's like a blood sugar thing.
Yeah, using blood, like your blood sugar. But I want to use like literally everything you can learn about somebody, so they'll stand on the scales every morning, and that links with, you know, the blood sugar.
Yeah, my friend Nick is building a product right now that measures your emotions. Like, it's like a wearable that measures your emotions. It's so weird. It's so wild. Imagine. Imagine mapping that against your food stuff. Like you're talking like, oh, how that impacts your mood. Super valuable, right?
And that's what I mean. So like, you know, you get this notification and say, oh, your blood sugar spike, blah, blah, blah. And then an hour later, it's like, how are you feeling? You know, or we've noticed that like your energy levels are dropped or whatever it is. And it's so it can continuously learn.
Yeah. And that comes back to it, right? It's like a lot of what we think is us making decisions. A lot of the time is not, because we're making decisions based on how we're feeling. But like we can kind of control how we're feeling through food, diet, exercise.
Becoming more aware basically of it.
Yeah.
And then through experimenting with different foods and stuff, you know. So
yeah. Is that where you see your coaching going more towards? Like that kind of.
Well, I being very ambitious, I was like, I want to help 1 billion people. And then I was like, going back to the limitless things, like, why am I putting a limit on it? I want to help an infinite number of people through, you know, fitness, food, fasting, lifestyle. And so, yes, I'm coaching like one-to-one. I'm doing group coaching and stuff at the minute. But how can I help that many people if I'm just like limiting my time for money? And so to kind of scale it, you need to bring in technology. That's what I believe is like, you know, where technology gets that advanced to be able to have all this data to be able to do what the coach is kind of doing. You know, it's and it's not just the you know, it requires the person, it requires input from them. So it's not just like you wear these things and it figures everything out for you. It's like, no, it's like actually you need to try and understand how you're feeling, how certain,
because you've got to learn as well, rather than
but just using that as like a kind of
feedback,
and using both of them, so both data, so from the actual human, from like how you're feeling versus what does the scale say, what is the fucking wearable saying, you know, and it all fits together. And it's, you know, that's how I see, not me, but how I see us being able to help.
Yeah, okay. So then on that, like, do you think, because I mean, this is a problem that seems to be more prevalent based on the environment that we're living in, like burnout, you know, fast pace, executives, CEOs, you know, stress levels, like increased decision fatigue, all the amount of things that we need to keep track of these days, like notifications, all of it. Where does this all come together? And like, maybe that's not the right question, but it's like, this is an epidemic right now, I think, like from what I'm seeing. Like you see people like Mo Goddard. Do you know him? Mo Goddard. He's just started something called Unstressable. He was an executive, or he was a bigwig at Google, and then and now he's left to create this whole thing, Unstressable, because he's just like, he's off it. He's like, you got to limit what you let in. You got to de-stress your life, declutter, go back to basics, be simple. Otherwise, you're just going to, like, we're not designed. Human beings are not designed to be living in this, with this amount of stimulus. It's just not part of our Going back to DNA, it's not part of it. So it's like, from what I've experienced, these things that you're talking about, diet, food, exercise, choosing, like what you consume, are almost what I call like anchor points. You're actually creating, you're actually curating what's around you, the input, because you're limiting the stresses. So then you're able to kind of like mitigate some of these bad decisions, because they're based on stress and emotion of stress.
Emotion, yeah.
When they can be actually, so it's like a two-way. It's an inside job and it's an outside job. You've got to you got to have the awareness, but then you've also got to be like, okay, well, what's around me now? Like, that's like, I got to sort this shit out. So what? So where? How? What's the question here? But like, you've got a very valuable skill to offer in this sense, like, and I think there's a few of us that are kind of going through this process where we're now taking charge of this stuff. How do you see this going business-wise, like rolling this out? Like, you want to run a program, like, and how are you going to access all these people?
So there's steps to where you want to be. You've got to take the initial steps, and what I need to start doing is coaching more, making it my full-time job, which is what I'm pursuing, which is why I left my job like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that.
We'll get on to that in a second. But so the stepping stones is for me to be able to shed more, to focus on the business and start to, do the next steps ahead. I need to be coaching, and I need to make money, and I need to, make this my full-time job, not just doing my 9 to 5 and then doing bits and pieces here, there, like, on the side. And so that was a big decision I made, was to leave my full-time job. The other side of it is I need to be able to make enough money so that I do have free time to, spend more time on the business. And so this comes back to figuring out my niche and my ideal target audience, and being a very entrepreneurial person, having had burnout in the past. I've had various different businesses, and knowing that using the particular methods that I follow with my fasting, with my training, that I free up a lot of time. I free up a lot of time compared
because you're not eating.
Because I'm not eating throughout the day, and it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And the training, everybody thinks you need to be doing training every single day in the gym, and you don't. You can have more optimized, harder sessions. I train 3 days a week, 3 days a week, and I'm lifting some heavy weights when I do. I'm doing some, what you would call superhuman stuff on the bars, and people underestimate the rest. But yeah, going back to that is like, I skip breakfast, I skip lunch. The average person might have 30 minutes where they're prepping breakfast. They sit down, they have the breakfast, they're checking the phone, whatever, on a morning, and then lunch. 30 minutes to 60 minutes lunch. Let's say it was 90 minutes a day that I'm saving through not having breakfast and lunch.
That adds up throughout the week, doesn't it?
Over a month, say average 30 days in a month, it's 45 hours per month that I save, compared to,
that's like a working week.
It's a full working week for some people. And so I've also experienced burnout. The penny dropped for me a few weeks ago when I actually sat there and I was recording a video, and I was just like, I skipped this, and I'm saving up to 45 hours. I was like, I'm saving up to 45 hours per month. I was like, that's a fucking selling point for me. Now, so my clientele who I am looking to help is successful entrepreneurs, business owners who, yes, they might have a thriving business, they might have a lot of money in the bank, but how's their health doing? How's their balance to their life? Are they happy? Do they have good relationships? Do they have a social life? And it's not just all about making money. You need, you've got to have some balance to your life to be happy.
Yeah, I agree to that. I agree, yeah.
If the way I look at it is, my selling point is, I've experienced burnout, and I've had tunnel vision on businesses and stuff where I've not spoken to friends or family for like 2 months, and I'm like, shit, like I haven't really, like barely ever, like, you know, the odd text or whatever, but like actually going to spend time with them or whatever. And you think, oh no, I went through a period before where I had this business, it was called Yoga Every Hour, and I was building a 24-hour free online yoga platform, and I was absolutely obsessed. So I was not only was I was doing yoga 5-6 times a week, every spare minute that I had, waking up on a morning, lunch breaks, on a night, weekends, like any spare minute I had, I was either recording yoga, I was learning about it, or I was creating content, or I was messing about with the website or whatever it was. And I got completely burnt out. And I was just like missing people's birthdays. You know, like people who's very important to me, like friends, like one of my best friends' birthday, missing the birthday, just, you know, just thinking, no, I've got to do this. Like, it's, if you want to have something, if you want to be great at something, all this, and it comes from, a lot of this comes from listening to motivational stuff many years ago. And you know what, yes, again, they might have a lot of money, they might have a thriving business, they might have this, that, the other. Look at the other areas of their life.
Yeah, like what's your quality of your life like? Because I mean, that's something for me too. Like I've come to the realization of, it's like you're striving, like, you know, having been a business owner myself, you know, I mean, I'm an entrepreneurial. I love doing business, ran an agency for 10 years, and learnt a lot doing that. But it's like, what are you really striving for in the end? Because it's like, what do you really want? Like for me, I want autonomy. I want freedom. I want to be able to travel around, do my podcast, meet cool people, have some fun, be in nice places, wear a Hawaiian shirt. No, you know, like I just train, you know, all that stuff that we do at the gym as well, like sauna, ice bath. I love all that stuff. But really, how much money do you really need to do all of that? And like the more stuff you have, the more stuff you have, the more stressed you are. Because it's all stuff, more responsibility. Shit, I gotta, you know, take care of that vehicle or deal with that house, or, you know, it's just all of this decision fatigue that you end up with. And I think it's not about not owning anything. You know, I'm not like Klaus Schwabsy over here, like saying, you know, own nothing and be happy. But I just mean like limits. It's all about like coming back to the curation thing of like being intentional about the things that you do have, rather than just filling your life with stuff. This never ends well for people.
No, and I used to think I wanted a big massive house and this, that, and the other. Like, I'm not materialistic, but I was like, I would like a big house and blah blah blah. When I lived by, this was like going back years ago, you know, when I was still like a teenager or whatever. And you know, you look at those things, and like when I've had my own place, my own house, my own flat, apartment, whatever it is, it's like you spend a lot of time cleaning and stuff like that. And I'm like, why would I want a massive place?
It's not. I actually saw a video with the guy who founded Telegram. You know, he's like, I think he's probably a billionaire, this guy. And someone was asking him, I don't know who was interviewing him, maybe it was Tucker Carlson or something. And they were saying, he was saying, I don't want to own anything. I don't want anything. I don't want a house. I don't want to own a car or like my own thing. Like, I don't want any of that stuff. They're like, he's like, why? Like, you've got so much money. Like, why? Nothing? You don't want a private jet? No, because then I'm just going to waste my time. I'm going to be thinking about what color seats do I want? Who's going to, you know, cleaning regimes and blah, blah, you know, like all this kind of stuff, servicing. You don't think about when you No, but it's like, it's so true. He doesn't want any of that stuff. And I think real wealth, you know, when you see, you know, what real wealthy people do, you know, they have yachts because obviously they're bouncing around to these like tax havens and things like that. But the real wealth is really the autonomy and the freedom to be able to travel where you want to and whenever you want to. Definitely. And enjoy the world rather than, you know, living these lives where you're just kind of chipping away, paying the mortgage.
I was just about to say about mortgages and stuff, and funny enough,
it's like a prison.
It is. Funny enough, I messed my credit up years ago, again when I was just young and daft.
It's a really awful word too, mortgage. It sounds gross. I don't know.
It's probably got a meaning to it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it has.
Moratorium. Mortgage.
If anybody knows, you can comment on this video.
Put something in the comments.
But yeah, like, you know, I know a lot of people who've got mortgages and stuff, friends and stuff, and it's like it
They're
does
stoked.
keep no, but it can keep you trapped. It's like a responsibility. It's like, you know, can I fuck off to Bali for 3 months? No, I've got to make sure the mortgage is paid and this, that, and the other. And it's like, I feel quite, you know, I don't have a lot of things. Got my van, I rent my apartment back home, and I feel free. You know, it's
so. Well, yeah, that's it, right? And just speaking of freedom, like I want to ask you about this. You quit your job, right? You had I saw on your feed you had like a 100K salary. Annual salary.
Yeah.
Pretty decent salary.
Before taxes, yeah. I just want to stress that, you know, because a lot of people messaged me and they were like, "You're not leaving that," and I was like, "But yeah, but think about taxes and stuff, you know." So it equates to around probably 55-60 grand a year, right?
Okay, which is crazy
after
too. That's how much tax is taken. It's like what the.
But in reality, it's a really good wage. I had a fucking really good job. I worked from home 4 days a week. I didn't have a manager breathing down my neck. You know, I got to travel. I got to go different places every now and then, stay in nice hotels, food paid for. Like, really good job, honestly. Not knocking it, but it wasn't feeding my soul.
Yeah,
and when
you weren't fulfilled.
No, and when you've got all these ideas and this vision, and you know you're working on something, and you know deep down that there's something else for you, money does not matter, because what I would, it's like, would never want to get to, like, you know, 78-year-old or whatever, sitting in my chair and just be like,
I paid off my mortgage.
I wouldn't like, I wonder if I did actually just bite the bullet and leave that job, and wonder where I'd be now. Yes, I'm probably still going to be in a good place. You know, I've always done fairly well for myself, but will I be fulfilled? Will I feel like I've served my purpose for being here on Earth? Probably not. And it was kind of, so this process of leaving my job started about 8 months ago. And I had the conversations with my manager. Basically asked if I wanted to go permanent, because I contracted, and my reply was no. I'm like actually working on my own business, which they knew when I joined the company. You know, they knew what I was doing. It wasn't like any surprise. And I was like, no, I'm like really wanting to build.
But I have an extra 1 week because I fast, so you're actually getting me for 5 weeks of a month.
Basically, yes. No, but and so I had conversations. I was like, no, I actually want to reduce my hours. You know, I want to reduce my hours. Not right away. You know, when I felt like the time is right. So a few months went on, and funny enough, in the same conversation, I asked for a pay rise. I'm a contractor, but I saw an email about permanent staff getting a pay rise.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm, shy kids get no sweets. I was like, I want a pay rise.
The squeaky wheel gets the oil.
You know, I value my work. I'm good at what I do. I'm a hard grafter, you know, I'm a hard worker, even if I am just on a computer. So in the same conversation, I want a pay rise, and they were like, okay, yeah, I think we can do that. I was like, there's another part of this. So the part of getting the pay rise was like, okay, the pay rise is going to offset the hours that I'm going to reduce. And so I said, I want to reduce hours now. And so I reduced hours by 1 day, went down to 4 days a week. Got my pay rise as well.
Oh, wow, very smart.
And so, you know, financially, it wasn't that much difference. There was barely any difference. But, you know, I freed up 1 day. And so that day focused more on the business. And then coming towards August, I was like, was it July or August? I actually booked my flights here. So subconsciously kind of knew I was going to leave.
You were prepping for it.
And anyways, I had the conversation again. I just says, after Christmas, I want to go down to part-time. And I want to take January off. And there was a bit of a pushback. I says, well, you know, I was kind of expecting us to reduce hours. There was a little bit of a pushback, and I just basically said, I'll just leave.
Bye.
No, it wasn't. It honestly wasn't like that. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, well, fuck you, see you later. It was more like...
How was that? Did that just feel amazing?
It did. And
or you scared?
No, nah. And that's how
You're like, email sent.
That's how I knew it was the right decision. So I was actually having a conversation with my manager, and I was like, I'll just leave. And I was like, I'm actually okay with that decision.
You felt good.
Felt like there was no worry or any anxiety or anything like that. I was like, I actually feel really good about that decision. And he was like, right, don't hand you... He was like, we had this call, he goes, let's jump in a call. He said, don't hand your notice in just yet. And I was actually going to type up my notice. This was on a Friday. And then over the week, it's okay. I'll have a think and stuff like that. He says, I'll speak up to the managers above and see what we can do. He says, but you kind of asking a lot, and you're asking for January off when you've already got 2 weeks off over Christmas. So it was like,
isn't this crazy though? Like you can't live your life because you have a job.
So that's another reason, I want to have the freedom. I've never
been really like an employee type person. Like, I probably work 6 days, 7 days a week, but like, because I love working, but like, at least having autonomy is something to me. Is just to not have that is bizarre. Having someone tell you can't do something on a day or this, like. But people live their whole lives like this.
Well, it's because they just think it's normal, But
to me, it's just I can't imagine being in that mindset.
No, I can't. And I contracted in IT for over 10 years, and I had that balance of I worked for somewhere for 3 or 6 months, then I could take a month off, or I go somewhere or whatever. So I wasn't like tied in, and. But yeah, going back to that, I had this was the Friday that I had this conversation. And then over the weekend, I was just like, I'm just delaying the inevitable here. I'm going to get to Christmas and I'm just going to say goodbye. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I typed up the email Monday. As soon as I logged on my laptop, typed up the email, and I was like, I've been thinking over the weekend, I'm just going to leave my job and go all in on my business, and I'm going to go to Bali for 6 weeks and really, really try and push it.
Good job, by the way.
Thank you. And they wish me all the best, and even the managers, even the head of IT was like, the door's always open. If I didn't want them to say this. Like, I don't want any plan B.
I think though that you're obviously somebody with a lot of integrity. Like I've seen you, how you interact with people around you and everything, like you're obviously that caliber of person is very difficult to come by. You don't see a lot of that around the world. People's values are very flexible. You don't really take me as a type of person to have those kinds of, you're not swayed in that way, really, are you? You're like you seem to me like discipline, like you've got integrity, and it's so for an employer, somebody like that, you're very hard to come by. Mm-hmm. So of course they're going to keep the door open, but you're like, you want them to slam it shut.
Kind of like did really, but
you want to burn the bridge, but you're not.
I want to burn the boats, basically.
You're not a bridge burning kind of guy. You're not.
And I only had to give 1 week notice, and I give them 4 weeks notice.
Yeah.
One, financially, it was better for me, but the other thing is I don't want to just.
You don't want to leave them in the lurch.
Of course I don't. The people who I work with, like lovely people, probably one of the best jobs I had, and I'm not like that, even though, it's a company at the end of the day and they're just doing their job, but it's like, but that's going to have an effect on you on your daily job, and I'm kind of, I'm conscious about that. Don't just leave
that's
people,
great.
leave people in the shit.
I think that's really good. I love that quality. So then, okay, so you're in IT as well, like you're that skill set's going to come back around somehow.
Well, it has.
Well, yeah.
It has. Yeah. I've combined, we manage our website and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I think more into I could see this, I could kind of see where this is going, like tech-wise. Like, I would love to talk to you more about, like, there's actually this AI agent group that meets here once a week. We should go and check it out and see, because I think there's something. There's a lot. I think right now we're in like a bit of a gold rush with AI agents, all these technologies. It's kind of like the 1995 again, like with the internet, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on as well in here in Bali. It's pretty
No,
wild.
I'm
let's go and check it out. But so what was I going to say about that? So you've left your job. You're doing your thing now. You're trying to work with successful people doing, entrepreneurs, people who maybe heading on that road to burnout.
Mm-hmm.
How does somebody like that get in touch with you, or work
how
with
do
you?
They get in touch?
And how do they work with? What do you do? What do you do with these people?
So I'll go through an onboarding process where I understand everything about their life.
Yeah.
Get them to perform an activity. It's called, I don't know the full name, but it's like, it's called the Wheel of Life. You've probably heard of it.
I know this one. It's like relationships. It's probably the other one. I know it's like financial, relationships.
So you draw a circle.
Health.
And most people's got like 5 to 7 areas, some people more.
Yeah.
It could be finances, it could be physical, mental health, it could be spirituality.
Fulfillment. Career, blah, blah, blah. Like, where do you feel? And then you get you see where it's lacking, right? And then you've got to kind of up those certain areas of your life.
And so what I do is create their plans for them. So create a fasting plan that fits around their lifestyle. So I've got to say,
is fasting a big part of what you do with your clients?
Yes, because all the health benefits. It's basically I call it the cheat code to fucking life. It means more. It's more life. Like you the autophagy. You can prevent a lot of ailments. You can metabolically, I'm younger than what I am. You can manipulate hormones like your growth hormone, which is your youth hormone. So I believe it's the way of keeping yourself young, keeping yourself healthy.
Yeah, you hear a lot about that, people fasting and because your cells are repairing all the time. But so you get them on on like some kind of program based on their Wheel of Life assessment where they're lacking in areas of their life.
So the first part of it is getting them into the fasting, the nutrition, and it's obviously understanding their level as well. So the fasting, the nutrition, the training, and then build the fasting and the training around their life, but using more let's say optimized ways of training rather than train every day. We'll train three times a week.
Be more intentional with your training.
And it's with the time that the time I talked about saving. So once I can get them to a point where they're eating once a day on an evening, they're going to start saving those blocks of time, and then those blocks of time,
where do you spend them? You've got
where do you spend them?
Family, friends.
Well, you spend them on the areas of life that you're lacking in.
Yeah.
And then you start to create more balance to your life. And what does that bring?
Yeah.
It brings happiness, and I think the ultimate, what people don't even probably realize, the ultimate goal about it is happiness. I'm happy. I bounce out of bed. I'm like, I've got a good balance to my life. I train at a very good level. I feel good.
Yeah, you look good.
Look fairly good,
You look good. You look great.
I feel like I'm doing pretty well, Don't get us wrong. I don't have all the money in the world. Like my business
is coming,
but
it's coming.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I've figured out this shit before I've even I experienced the burnout and everything, and it's not good.
Mate, I was there too. I showed you my picture. Yeah, I totally get it. It's almost like you have to go there so that you know what it's like, and then you know how to recover, and then you got to go back and get some of the other people out of there and help them through,
And so that's what I want to do is for me to get to where I want to be, which is, eventually this is going to evolve into a tech company, right? And for me to get to where I want to be, these are the first part of it. I love working with people, I love helping people as well. And it's what's the best way I can do this? And who are the people I can relate to? And the penny drop when I was here, I was just like, I want to help people like me who's entrepreneurial, who I can relate to, because I have burnt out through business and it's not nice, and some of the things my effect was the business and my mental health. Other people's knock-on effect to that might be their family or relationships, and it's about trying to, I want to help people prevent from burning out and
100%, 100%.
And
And and to have the resilience to be able to deal with the rate of change that's going on, and the, you know, because it's only going to get more crazy, I think, over the next few years.
But I feel like when, you know, if you're managing your physical and your mental health, you know, through training, through eating well and stuff, you handle things a million times better.
Yeah.
You know, if you're somebody who drinks all the time and follows a shit diet and stuff, when you have a problem in your life, you don't handle it very well. If you can handle yourself and you look after yourself, when things come at you, it's just like, well, you know, you can deal with it. And you know, I'm like fucking living proof of that, you know. I can.
Yeah.
I don't let a lot of stuff affect us, you know.
No, I get that too. That's the nervous system work, you know, as well. When you've done that work, your body finds a new normal of what's you're actually able to do more risk because you've created more safety. Like the boundary of what's safe is expanding all the time because you're building the capability to be able to deal with more.
Deal with anything that might
so
arise, you know.
Yeah, that's right. So you can go reach out a little bit further, you know. It's a whole journey, this. But in saying that, what is there anything? Have we left anything out, you think?
Have we left anything out?
Yeah, like about your business, or about, like, do you have any goals this year?
So, not very specific goals. And because life can, you know, change a lot.
Yeah. But do you have, like,
and the other thing
general...
is like you can kind of limit yourself with goals.
Okay, I like that.
You know,
don't limit yourself with a goal.
But you can, though. You know, if you.
But like, I have one this year. I want to get 100 episodes of Design on Purpose recorded, which means I have to record one a week and an extra 16 episodes. Because if I only do one a week, I'm only going to get to have recorded episode 84 by the last week of December. So to me, that's a goal. But is it limiting me or is it pushing me?
No, I honestly, I'm not knocking goals at all.
Yeah.
This actually came from a good friend of mine who's actually a client as well. He's a life coach, business coach, and he's like, I asked him, this was his onboarding process, and have you got any particular goals? He says, I don't want to give particular goals because I'm limiting myself. And he says, the things that I said I was going to do last year, I want to get to this. He says, I surpassed them quicker than I thought I would. He says, so I'm kind of trying to live in the mindset of not placing a limit on those goals, but having maybe ambitions of, like, what was his goals in his 3-6 month year? And he was like, what was it again? I can't remember off the fucking top of my head.
No, that's cool. But basically, the gist of it is goals. If you set goals, you could aim too low. It's like that it's almost like that. You know, what is it called? That whole fable about the guys that made the wings from wax and feathers. You know this thing. Gosh, what's the name of it? I'm having a mental blank now, but it's basically it's a story of these two. It's like an ancient Greek fable, and they make these wings to escape out of wax and feathers, right? To escape some imprisonment or something like that. I don't know the detail, but basically the story is that they couldn't fly too high because the wax would melt the wings and the feathers would fall out and they would die, right? But the other side of that, and if you know what it is, can you put the comment down there? It's gonna pop into my head tonight and be like, shit. But the other side that you don't hear about is if you aim too low. They said you can't fly too low because then the sea mist will, you know, wet the feathers and then you'll fall into the ocean and die. So, you know, it's the same thing. It's like, I think maybe goals are good, but you kind of got to push it a little bit. Like 100 podcasts to me is a lot. You know, that's like, whoa, that's going to push me. I'm going to grow as a person from that.
Mm-hmm.
Could I do 200? Could I do 1,000? Maybe not. Might be burnt out.
Well, the thing is, you don't know how things are going to go. So let's say your podcast explodes in the next 3 months, and then you end up having a team of people around you, and you're able to do a podcast every other day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So, do you know what I mean? So, for me,
let's see what happens.
For me is, you know, I've left my full-time job. This year the focus is to be fully just working for myself, and that is my intentions with it. Whether that stays at, you know, 5, 10, whether, you know, 6 months down the lines, I end up starting to use technology to help, and I scale this thing to where I can make, you know, a lot more. I don't want to just put don't want to put a limit and say, I want a 10 grand month.
Do you have a nightmare? Do you have like a nightmare? Because Paul Check, this guy I mentioned before.
Nightmare? Yeah,
he's like he does this every year. I do this podcast that he's got. I do his little thing. I sit down, I go and basically it's your year in review. And basically what he gets you to do before you do your year in review is to describe your nightmare. Like, what's your nightmare this year? Like he says, write your nightmare down. And then he says, now you look at your nightmare and you basically say, I have the power to resolve this nightmare when I choose. Like, what's the thing that's taking all your energy and it's draining you, and that's what you choose? Maybe you've got nothing.
No, do you know what it is? There's not, because the way I say it, right, is as long as I've got a roof over my head and I've got food in the fridge, I'm absolutely fine, and it's just a part of the journey of what I'm going on. So, you know, let's say that it's not going to happen, but let's say I don't get any clients. Let's say that I've got to go back to work, or let's say I'm just, you know, running on like barely any money. I have to give up my apartment back home and I have to move back in with my mum. I'm still going to have a roof over my head and food in the fridge, which is more than 90% of people in the world. And it's like, one of the lads at the gym says, you've got some balls, you doing that. I was like, well, not really. I says, what's the worst that could happen? I'll go back to my mum's. Big wow. You know, it's like, I'm not, do you know what I enjoy a lot about this entrepreneurial journey, right, is the fucking journey and the experiences. And if that's sometimes where, you know, you're changing your last fucking £7.50 in the Coinstar machine in Asda because you've raided your copper jar, then, you know, it's all part of it. And it's like,
it's kind of fun, actually. Of course
it is. And like, once you look at it like that, it's like, you know, like, I'm still alive. I'm still fairly healthy. I can train. You know, I live in England, so if I need to, I can get, like, I don't think like this, but, you know.
Yeah.
You can get benefits or whatever. I'm not thinking like, oh, well, I'll just go on benefits or whatever. But it's like, a lot of people in the world don't have that. And like I say, my mum would always open the doors to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the worst thing comes to the worst, I'd spend all my money, I really, really push it, and I have to say, do you know what it is? I've got to give up my apartment. I've got to take a step in this direction, which means I go back to my mum's so I can continue focusing on the business rather than just leave it. And you know what? It's
not that bad, is it? Like, when I wrote down my nightmare, I was like laughing because I'm like.
Did you feel like you had to just write a nightmare? Or was it actually a proper nightmare?
No, this was Paul Check's thing where he was like, your year in review. So he's like, the first thing you do when you're planning a new year is to write your nightmare. And then it's just so stupid though when you write it out and you look at it and you're like, that's my nightmare. I'm like, that's so dumb. Anyway, it's funny. But I think like just, you know, and maybe that's kind of like a good note to kind of wrap this up. But like, because I really believe that there's a lot of people that are going to lose their jobs over the next 5 years. You know, where this AI thing comes, people don't realize that it's more risky to stay in your job, in your safe job, and actually not engage with, you know, building your own systems, becoming a system leader, following your own path in life, your own intuition, because this AI thing's gonna it's already coming around, and I really believe, like, you know, the real risk is, you know, what you're saying there, being in this. Well, actually, I don't think a lot of people will get in that, will have that luxury of, even if they wanted to, being in that job for the next 20 or 30 years, because the world's about to radically change. Well, it is changing. It has changed. I think it's now. It's like, you know, what do you do with that information? Do you allow yourself to be the victim of circumstance and change, or do you make a decision to take a risk, short-term risk, and become resilient and adaptable to the change that's coming? Because it is coming. I guarantee you it is coming.
I just want to add to that, is like, you know, whatever job you're doing, or, you know, whatever industry you're in, you can look at AI and you can say, well, how can this help us? You know, how can this... and I think I mentioned this the other day, a human with AI is more valuable than AI alone. And I feel like if you know, go with the flow and even just learn how to integrate AI into what you are doing, you can improve the way that you work and use it to your advantage.
You can be like,
you know?
20 people. Like, you can be a systems leader of AI, having all these AI agents and tools. And you're a systems leader, you know, you're one person. If you learn how to use a tool that can do a job of 20 people, 30 people, like, with all these tools, you know, and that, you know, I like to say, you know, you're worried about AI. Well, you know, don't be a tool. Do you have that saying in England? Don't be a tool.
Aye. Don't be a tool.
Yeah, don't be a tool. You know, if you're going to be a tool, then, you know, you're going to be treated like one. You're going to be, you know, the next thing. Let's bring in somebody that knows how to use the tools rather than is a tool. And so, you know, are you going to be the person that learns how to use the tools, or are you going to be a tool? And I think that's, you know, spot on what you're saying. So it's like, now I think, you know, obviously, like I mentioned, we're already seeing it. And I'm not too sure, like, if people are aware if this is coming or not. Like, I think maybe people have an inkling or whatever. But, you know, it's the time to embrace the technology, embrace the change. We're at another mass extinction. You know, in a mass extinction event, it's always the adaptable animals that survive. You know, any change. If we look at nature and systems change in nature. So yeah, interesting times. But on that note, Jason Gutsell, do you have where can people find you?
My main place is Instagram. Jason Gutsell, Gutsell.
Yeah. And what about your courses and your
fasting101.app. That's my website. It's got the information and everything on there.
And then if people want to book in for like a one-on-one, like a coaching, if someone wants to become a client of yours,
there's an so my one-to-one coaching is very, very personalized, and it's only limited to 3 people at a time.
Okay.
I've already got one.
You got a spot?
I've got one spot. I've got another client who's on board, and I've got one on at the minute. So
okay, you got a waiting list?
Sorry?
Have you got a waiting list?
No, because I've only just launched this while I've been. It's only been this last 3 weeks.
Okay,
so,
but yeah, okay.
So get a waiting list on the web. But you can apply. You know, you can apply. Go on to the website.
We need to scale you so you can get. We need to clone you somehow. Make some agents.
But so I've got one-to-one coaching. I've also got group coaching.
Yeah. Okay.
So my group coaching is called Biojacked, and
I love it.
Good name, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good one.
So that's like my group coaching. So there's a full course on there that teaches you everything you need to know about. Well, it's phase 1, and then it'll evolve to phase 2 and phase 3. So it's like what I was doing 5 years ago, let's say, and it's basically building on your foundations of your strength, your foundations of fasting and your nutrition, and there's a community there. So it's got everything that you need in the course.
Beautiful.
But then it's got me on the community to help you out when you need.
Love it. Love it. So there you go. If you do want to get in touch with Jason, that's where to find him. And if you've got this far, wow, we're nearly at 2 hours here. I love it. Haven't done one this long in a while. I'm sure we probably could have kept going. This is actually part 2 because we kind of did a podcast last night sitting at the gym there. But if you don't already, do like and subscribe to the Design on Purpose channel on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Instagram, all the main podcasting channels. And also find me on Instagram and X. I'm on X. Are you on X? Do you get on X?
No, I don't really use it. No.
Really? Oh, I'm really
There's
into
just too many platforms.
I love X. At Captain Rixley on X. That's the one that I'm kind of like trying to get more into. And then I'll add all the other links and everything that's mentioned here in the description below. But that's it. Do you have any last words there?
No, just thanks for having us. And
thanks for having us.
Maybe I'll be on again.
Let's check in on your goals next year. Yeah.
I will be making another visit back here, or we'll catch up, depending on where you're going to be.
Yeah, I'll be in Europe. I'm thinking about going to Portugal, actually. So let's see. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to another episode of Design on Purpose. We will see you next week. Ciao.
Ciao. Awesome. Nice one.